Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, first let me thank you all for giving me an opportunity to come and visit with all of you this evening. I want to introduce John Gearhart, who is in the back there. John is my campaign manager, and he helps me a lot with my campaign. And let me start by perhaps talking a little bit about who I am. Many of you know the work that I've done in Albuquerque because I've spent 25 years in public service, and a good portion of that work has been here in the city of Albuquerque. And I'll talk a little bit about that, but a lot of times people want to know a little more about who you are as a person and where you're from and what values or what experiences in life brought you to where you are today. And I want to share a little bit of that with you, and then we'll talk a little bit about why I want to be Lieutenant Governor. I was born in a small town in northern New Mexico, a little town of Chile. A lot of folks may have heard the story once or twice, but Chile is a little town that's across the river from the metropolis of Peña Blanca. And so it's a very small town. It's nestled between the pueblos of Cochiti and Santo Domingo. There was an old a land grant that was subdivided and eventually, probably a total of 20 homes or 20 families or so, and so that's where I was raised. My father died when I was 3 years old, and my mom raised 7 children on her own. And so we learned a lot about working together and how when you're in a family of that size and you have very limited resources, that working together really makes things better for everyone. And I tell people and I tell people all the time that indoor plumbing is a really good thing because we grew up in a home after my father's death. It was sort of one of those work in progress. He built 2 rooms, and there were 7 of us, and eventually we were going to get the 3rd and 4th room, but we really needed the bathroom, and so we did the outhouse thing and all that. But the other funny story about growing up is on Saturdays was the day you all took a bath, right? And so we had the best bucket brigade of any of the families there, because my uncle lived about a quarter of a mile off the road, and would let us go and pump the water out of his well, and we'd take the water to the house and warm it up. And of course, there were 7 of us, so usually the eldest or the oldest person got to bathe in the clean water, and then we dumped the water somewhere in between to get new water. But the point is that I was towards the end of the picking order of the food chain. But nonetheless, what it was really about was always working together and realizing that you need to help each other, and that's what small towns are about, and that's what communities are about, is working and helping each other. A couple of other things that we did learn very quickly is the value of honesty and hard work, and that those are important values because they really form the person you are and the person you become as an adult. The other funny story is we live right next to the church, so we had to go to the church. And I'm a Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and we had to go and chop the wood to put in the big bellied stoves in the church so that the church would be warm on Sundays when the priest would come and the parishioners would come. So that was just our job because we were the closest to the church. So it was always one of those things that we had to do, community stuff to help the community, but also help each other as a family. I was fortunate to attend public schools and went to Bernalillo High School and graduated from Bernalillo High, and went to the University of New Mexico, and I have a master's in public administration with a concentration in public finance. I'm probably one of the few people that actually went to school and got a degree and stayed in the field that he actually was educated in, staying in public service for the time that I have. I started really early on, in some ways a lot like what Jerry talks about when Jerry talks about his social work. I started my early work in helping children, young economically disadvantaged kids between 14 and 18 years of age, find summer jobs. And I worked in areas like the Cuba area and out in the Navajo Nation. I worked in the Valenta County area and in many of the rural areas in New Mexico, trying to connect kids with jobs so they could make ends meet and continue to attend school and stay in school. And if they needed to go to college, trying to find them some opportunities to get some Pell Grants, etc. So a lot of what I would call community work and social work. But I was able to work on a campaign with then Governor Tony Anaya and I ended up with a deputy secretary position at the Department of Transportation at a very young age. And it was back in the day when Tony and I had that whole idea of a bullet train, and everybody laughed and said it would never happen. And that was the time that I was working in Santa Fe. I then was able to get to go to Washington to work for Senator Bingaman, and I worked for Senator Bingaman for 3.5 years in D.C. and did a lot of work